Hello and welcome to Disclosure Network New York. It's a meeting on Sunday, November 4th, 2018. I'm Nick Curto, co-founder and director. dnny is a grassroots organization now celebrating our 17th year of providing 2 meetings a month throughout the year in Manhattan. We focus on cutting-edge UFO, ET issues, paranormal phenomenon, and related subjects. Our members do intense investigative research into these various topics and share that information with the group at our meetings and on the internet with our followers there. Our motto is, right from the beginning, quote, connecting the dots to seek truth, unquote. I'd like to mention that we have available to everyone worldwide a DNNY News Blast email service focusing on the various topics that are free to access. Just go to our website, dnny.info, and where it asks, type in your email address and press send. You'll then be accessing all of our current information. We encourage people to also send us, the address is nicknyny1 at gmail.com, any particular information that you have, and we will post it. Just be sure to put your first name, your last name, and your email address so we know who's sending it. We appreciate your help in doing that. Now, our featured guest for today's meeting is Rena Dunsworth. Rena, a very, very warm welcome to you today.
Thank you, Nick.
Great to have you here. And your title of the program today is, quote, My Friends from Outer Space, unquote. Wow, that's a great title. You certainly have my attention as well as the room's attention here. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, starting at age 2, these women from a star system called Eta Cassiopeia, which is 19.42 light years away in the Cassiopeia constellation, would come into my parents' house, and they were invisible to my parents, but I could see them. And they would talk to me when I was 2 years old. So especially when my mom, she used to put me in the sink to give me a bath, and they would stand behind her and talk to me.
Wow.
And they called me Gopti, which in their language means strange daughter. And I'll get into that a little bit later, why they call me strange daughter.
What an experience for such a child. And did you sense that they were from some other place, or did they tell you that, or how did that
They
work?
told me later in life that they were from Eta Cassiopeia.
But you might have just thought that was a normal thing.
Yeah. I did. I experienced a lot of paranormal stuff when I was young.
Mm-hmm.
Ghosts and things like that. So it was pretty normal for me to see people that weren't really there, or at least not to other people.
Okay. Did you tell your parents this, or at a later date?
No.
Because they would probably.
I kind of sensed that they wouldn't approve.
Okay, I can understand that. That's very logical.
Yeah.
So take us then to where the next step then was. That later down the road, or was this constant?
Yeah. When I was 9 years old, they took me to the star system, which is the closest star system to Earth, called Alpha Centauri. And
Yes.
they took me there to specifically to show me what extended fossil fuel usage does to a planet. This was a planet that had all of their polar caps had melted. Their oceans had risen to the point where they totally engulfed the coastal cities. They rebuilt their coastal cities inland.
We're thinking of doing that now, by the way.
Yeah.
So there's some plans to, even in New York City, there's plans already. Go ahead.
The ocean life was pretty much dying off because of algae in the ocean. because the water was so much warmer.
Wow.
And so they had to find creative ways to eat algae. They didn't. Most of their animal life had already become extinct.
Well, that's going on here too, right now.
They had a culture where they used drugs, and they had something kind of like our virtual reality machines, and they would live out a big part of their life in virtual reality because the conditions were so bad on
A way of escaping?
yeah, a way of escaping, because even the air smelled bad.
And they currently, that's where those conditions are right now. That was
No,
happening.
no,
Oh.
they've died out.
Okay. All right.
They told me, my contacts told me within the last 3 years that they've died out. The human life there is dead.
So what happened? Did they move to another location?
No, they just
Died out?
died out. They didn't have food. They didn't really explain to me what happened to them. They just said that they died out.
That's so sad. I want to go back to where you said they transported me to this place.
Yes.
They asked you your permission that they would do that, and you said,
Yeah.
okay. And then can you tell us about what kind of transportation there was? How'd they transport you?
They had flying saucers. They used something kind of like warp speed. I remember going on their ship, and I had my own special room. They had a special room for Indri, their goddess, and she would actually appear there sometimes to some of the people there. She appeared to me while I was on their ship, and she talked to me, and
She would be the highest level of their...
she was a goddess.
Goddess, just way up there.
She's in the pantheon of the. She's in the Indian pantheon, India. Her name is Indri, and she's the goddess of fallen women.
Wow.
Fallen and forgotten women.
Did she welcome you, or what was you remember the conversation?
Well, she told me that I have to accept that I am a woman because I was born with a penis.
But okay. And so at that point, at that particular point, you were a man?
No, whenever I went on their ship, they would use a transporter, and they would rearrange my DNA so that I looked like this.
Wow.
And this woman that I've painted looks a lot like my mom. So I looked a lot like my mom when she was young.
So they were really
Because they don't.
encouraging you, they were nurturing you to be who you are.
Yeah.
Okay.
They tell me, to this day they say you have to accept that you are a woman.
Okay.
That you have ovaries, that even though you were born with a penis, you are essentially more a woman than you are a man.
Well, I met somebody in my life a few years ago that was born with both, too.
Yeah,
And they said
XXY.
to his parents at that early stage, they said, you have to make a decision about your child.
Yeah.
Because there's a name for that when you're both. I can't think of what it is.
XXY.
Okay, so they said, well, we have a
Chromosomes.
wonderful daughter. We love her so much, and we don't have a son. So would it be all right if you gave him the ability to become a man? And they medically did that, and I met him as he was a handsome, strong guy that I didn't think twice about that. And later he said, well, Nick, I just want you to know that I was born with both, and my parents made a decision. How incredible that is. And a lot of people still don't understand that. But so Wow, that's an incredible story. That
They say
alone's
that I
interesting.
have ovaries, but
Okay.
that they're like a little girl. They're not activated like a woman is.
Okay,
And there's a strange story that I have to tell.
please.
I went to the hospital once because I was having stomach problems, and they did a CAT scan, and the doctor didn't know that I was in this particular room, and the tech came in and said, "What is the government doing? He has ovaries."
Wow. Surprise, surprise. Oh.
And they didn't know I was in the room, so I didn't say
And you
anything.
heard it, you heard
I
it.
heard it, and
Wow.
it was the first time I was in my 20s, and what? You know, that's because my parents raised me as a boy,
Yeah.
so, but I knew by the age of 6 that I was in the wrong body, that I was supposed to be a woman.
And you were, if I remember right, in Middle America. What state were you in?
Colorado.
Colorado, and so that would be rough to be in. Was it a rural area you were in?
No, but close to a rural area.
Okay, but
At that time, I couldn't have transitioned like I am
nobody would
now.
have
No.
known what to do. They
My
wouldn't
my dad would have killed me.
probably. Well, yeah, at the time, a lot of there was so much
Not
misunderstanding.
literally, but
So much
figuratively.
misunderstanding. There've been so many
Yeah.
kids who've been thrown out of their homes because they were
Yeah.
gay or lesbian or
Yeah.
or even bisexual. That
Yeah.
goes on, And here we are at the Gay Center here in New York City, and there are programs of addressing all those issues
Yeah.
for the community to understand and to know how to respond to these challenges.
Yeah.
So, and at the time, you didn't have that support. Not
Yeah.
who you were.
well, I had the support of my contactees, but
Yes, that's a good
my
point.
contacts.
Yeah.
And they treated me like a woman. In fact, they wouldn't allow me to come on their ship except as this woman.
Which they helped you to become.
Yeah, through the transporter process.
How did you feel about the first time that happened? How would you feel?
I felt at home, but kind of strange too. And I
course.
was depressed for a while, and then they're essentially lesbians because there's a long story that I can tell sometime about why there's only women on their planet. And half the women have penises and vaginas, and half the women have just vaginas. And but I won't get into that today.
That's another story.
That's
but
another story.
We want to hear it, but
Okay.
we'll go with the story we have today.
Yeah.
All right. So you're on the ship, and you've emerged as who you really are.
Yeah.
And that must have been an incredible experience for you.
Yeah.
And then they brought you to this planet,
Yeah.
and you were able to see.
Yeah, we actually landed and went out, and the air stank. Have you ever been around a pond
Yes.
that has a lot
Oh,
of
yeah.
oil in the bottom?
Oh yeah.
And how badly, that's the way
Just
the
wanna
air
die.
stank. It really
And
stank.
that hit you immediately when you
that-
got off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that was how they were living at the
Yeah,
time.
they were hundreds of years ahead of us, but that's where we're headed. That's where we're headed.
It was
And-
overwhelming their civilization. At
Yeah.
the time. Well, now when you were inside their structures, were they filtered air and all that?
We didn't go into any of their structures. We just landed outside the city, and we took some samples, water samples and things like that,
Oh.
so that they could study the changes.
Oh.
But they wanted me to see firsthand because they feel like I have a mission to tell people about fossil fuels and what they eventually do to a
I
planet.
know that you're an author and you're working on some book ideas as well as
Yeah.
movies. Will any of that information filter into some of your work?
Yes.
It
yes.
will.
Yes,
Well, that's exciting. That's exciting. I know you're a wonderful writer, so I can't wait. I really can't. And the world needs that. The world needs to understand what's at stake here. So that's a great way to get that information out.
Yeah.
So keep us close and posted on as things progress.
Okay.
Okay. So now, how long were you there to observe all this?
Well, they would take me on different trips. We went to another world about 16 light years away from Earth. It took 3 days to get there. And there they had refineries. They were actually selling gasoline to other planets. They had these huge, huge refineries. And the air was so bad that you had to wear a mask.
Wow.
And this was another world that, where they were showing me what fossil fuel usage does to a planet.
But they were still using
They were still using it.
And were they using it for powering things? Was that the use
powering,
of it? It was.
Yeah, they refused to, like us, they refused to go into alternative energy.
That's what I was going to ask you about, atomic energy. They wanted to stay away from that kind of power?
Yeah.
Okay, because it was dangerous and they realized that?
Sentimental reasons like Trump with his, let's get back to great
Good old
America, 1950s values and stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
And,
Wow.
Yeah.
So, okay, well, so then take us then to what the next chapter or...
Well, these trips continued into my teens. And they would take me for 2 to 3 weeks at a time, and they would bring me back to the same moment. Well, this one time they brought me back a little bit early and dropped me. I was camping with some friends of mine outside the city, and they brought me back and dropped me off on the far side of the lake, so I had to walk. I didn't even know how I got there. I just woke up, and I'm there, and I see our camp over on the far side of this lake, and I had to walk over there, and I get over there, and my friends were saying, "Where the hell have you been? We've been looking all over the place for you."
Because so much time had gone past, and they had no idea.
Well, they brought me back to within a couple hours of, so they had a couple
when you were
hours.
Gone? So that the time was.
So they had 2 hours that they were trying to find me, but I had been gone 3 weeks.
3 weeks. I got to ask you. I'm always interested in food and nourishment.
Yes.
What did they have something equivalent to what you normally would eat, or was it very different? Was it minerals? What was it?
It was food.
Regular foods.
Yeah, they had a lot of. It reminds me of Middle Eastern food.
Okay.
In the past, they've disguised themselves as Berbers.
As what?
Berbers on this planet.
Okay.
And they have a diet that's similar to that. They eat meat, but they also eat vegetables and breads and things like that.
They grow their own foods?
On the ships, they synthesize them.
Okay. Really? Okay.
Yeah. They synthesize them.
Was there anything unusual about their drinks or their food? Anything unusual that you've never seen before or tasted before? Was there anything like that?
No, not that I can remember, but there's chunks of memory that just aren't there yet.
Well, there's a lot going on. I mean, what isn't going on? It's everything you knew, and then it's all changed.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
Yeah.
Just to cope with that.
What I remember most about them is their society.
Tell us.
This ship had like 15 women. Each one had a specific job that they did. There was a science officer, there was a navigational person, and then they had what's called the mother. And she's the tallest woman. I'm theorizing that she's the one woman in the group who's half male.
Okay.
And she runs everything. Everybody answers to her.
I got to ask you, as far as personality, was she very authoritarian, or was she a kind person? Was there any?
She had an authoritarian side, but she was also very kind. But she used to tease me unceasingly sometimes, because if she sees what she considers a weakness in you, she'll make fun of you because of that, so that you can overcome it.
Okay. Well, that's helpful, though. That's a helpful thing.
And
then that's how she did it.
yeah, and I was depressed, and I thought it took too long to get, like, I almost had, in my younger years, I had this attitude of when are we going to get there?
Okay.
Because
all kids have that. Hey, Dad, how much longer is it going to be?
Yeah. So, time travel, space travel is not super fast. I mean, it is super fast,
right,
in comparison to our ships.
The distances.
The vast distances, light years that they travel, and in a very short amount of time, really. But to any person on the ship, it takes, it's like traveling to the East Coast from the West Coast. It's going to take time.
I got to ask you about when you're in a vehicle like that, were you hearing any humming or sounds, or was there any feeling of gravity? What was that like? Was there nothing like that?
We had gravity, but there was a soft humming sound. And looking out the window, I used to be fascinated. I would sit in my room and look out the window at the stars, because you would look at the stars, and about every few minutes they would shift over, because we had made another jump.
A jump?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it wasn't traveling from point A to point B smoothly. It was making little jumps.
That makes sense. That does make sense. And do you know what kind of power, what was powering the craft?
No, I don't have any idea what kind of power they had.
Okay.
It was very impressive, though.
And just generally about the ship, were there like soft curves, or was there any particular colors, or?
No, it has a red aura around it, but it's basically a silver disc shaped craft.
And inside, was there, I don't know, was it?
Well, the inside's bigger than the outside.
Talk to me, why? That's interesting.
A dimensional shift.
Okay, that makes sense. I've heard things like that before.
Their ship was maybe 60 feet wide, but on the inside, it was big enough that each person had a room, their own separate room, and
wow. And how was it lit? Was it? Do you remember anything about?
Yeah, it was lit up inside.
Was there like lights, or was it like a glowing panels?
It was more like light everywhere.
Okay, like a glowing.
No specific light source, but just light.
Yeah. I've seen some designers have designed panels like that.
Yeah.
That right now, something's
really?
available. Yeah, so I can understand that.
Yeah.
So, all right. So then, what's the next? Where do you want to go from there? What would be?
Well, I should talk some about their society.
Please.
Like I say, they have the mother, and then everybody has their own job. And I have this mark that I got when I was 9 years old on my ankle, and it's a red triangle, and it was put there by them, and it's there to show my class in their society.
Oh.
And basically, I'm a thrall, and a thrall is somebody who doesn't know anything. So I had chores on the ship, things that I did, but I didn't have the scientific knowledge that they did as a woman.
Right. Did they educate you in any ways to come up to another level of knowledge?
They encouraged me to get in touch with my male side, because my male side has all that knowledge from Area 51 that we've talked about.
Oh, okay. Wow. So you were able to do that?
But no, I was never able to do that as
Couldn't?
a woman on their ship. I
Okay.
never was able to do that.
And I know now that you have so much knowledge, and just was that on your own doing when you returned, that you were immersed in books? And I know there's a lot of subjects that you're amazing on. Was that self-taught like that?
Yeah, I did a lot of reading. I spent a lot of time in libraries.
Yeah.
I've spent a lot of time studying folklore, because I think a lot of UFO stories are in folklore, like the Irish, the Welsh, and the Scottish all have stories of these people that live in the bottom of the lake or in the sides of a mountain.
Oh, yeah.
And they come out of the water, and usually they fall in love with a young shepherd boy who has a family with them, and their kids live to be a couple hundred years old and things like that. Or the Irish have the fairy ring stories, where people go with the fairies for one night, and they're gone one night, and they come back and 50 years have passed. Well, that's near light speed travel. That's what happens. Einstein proved this in his theories, that if you were able to go the speed of light a certain distance and then come back, a week might have passed in your time, but 100 years would have passed on the earth.
Some of those folklore stories that you're referring to, change a few words about the way they call themselves or the little people. Change a few words, and you can easily interpret that as being an ET visitation. There's so many stories like that in those cultures, for sure, and others also. So that makes sense.
Yeah.
How amazing that is, and that's what they were doing at the time. They were equating with what they knew.
Yeah.
And so that makes sense that they would say little people, that things like that, and that we disappeared, or then they magically appeared, because magic can be the same thing as high-tech knowledge, of course. So, but that's what they knew, and that's the way they interpreted it. So that's a good point. So, where we go from there?
I think I was going to finish up their society. Everybody had their own job, as I said earlier. But they would, sometimes when they were traveling, they would, in order to pass the time, they would sing and dance.
Really?
And they had these intricate dances that they would do in a circle in what's called the dome part of the where all the navigational equipment is and stuff like that. And they would dance and sing, and when they sang, each person would they would sing together, and then one person would take over the melody and sing like a solo, and then they would pass it on to the next person, and it was just so fascinating to watch them.
I can imagine.
I mean, imagine these beautiful, beautiful women, more beautiful than Beyonce or Rihanna or any of those dark-skinned women. They're dark-skinned. Singing and dancing and just carrying on, it's just for the sport of it, just for the fun of it.
Was the music This is a hard question, I know, but the music you were hearing that they were doing and singing, was it equivalent to anything that we would know as far as the style of music? Was it like chanting? Was it what kind of? Was it calm music? Was it very?
No, it was very uplifting.
Uplifting. Okay. Dancey kind of music.
Almost a cross between Irish and Middle Eastern music.
Okay.
Cross between those two.
Oh, that's wild.
Yeah.
And there were lyrics, of course.
Yeah.
And did they deal with any particular subject matter, like love?
Well, they sang in their language, and I didn't know their language.
Okay. Now, when you were communicating, was it through thought?
No, they knew English. They could speak
So
in
they
English.
could verbalize,
Yeah.
and you could verbalize back.
But when they're, like, I can tell when they're in the solar system because they'll send a telepathic message to me.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, they're in the process of moving to a new planet because their planet is going to be destroyed when their sun goes. In 30 years, their scientists predict that their sun is going to go nova within the next 30 years.
Oh my God.
So they have been looking for a number of years for an uninhabited planet.
It would have to be an uninhabited planet
Yeah.
as opposed to a planet like our planet.
Well, they did have, I don't think they do anymore, but they did have a plan to move 2 million people here. They wanted to create a city in the Amazon jungle.
You had mentioned that at one of your other lectures. I remember that, yeah. But
Yeah.
that has been now.
Well, they don't talk about it anymore, so I don't, maybe I need to ask them, is that plan scrapped or
That would be
what's
interesting
the
just
deal?
to see. But they are currently looking.
Well, they have found
They have. Okay.
a planet that is about another 30 light years beyond where they live.
Wow. Further out.
Yeah, further out. So it'd be close to 50 light years from Earth.
How many? Is there any way to know how many individuals? Would
Millions.
Millions.
And millions.
Millions.
And millions. Not like us, not in the billions, but millions and millions and millions.
That's quite a move. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they have these ships, these motherships, that are 200 miles across.
Mm-hmm.
And they can move up to 2 million people in those ships.
That's incredible.
So they're going to be moving people for a while.
What a story that is.
Yeah.
Oh my God. That's,
I think my friends are helping in the move. I think that's why I haven't. Although Tom's going to talk in a few minutes about an experience that he had, I think, with one of my friends from outer space.
oh.
Because I asked them, would you please show yourself to somebody in the DNNY group?
Did you?
Yes, I did.
Really?
And then Tom told me this story of, in fact, why don't you go ahead and go into it?
Why don't you go ahead,
Okay.
Tom, and share that with us, please.
Okay. I had gone to Rosewood and was coming back to Forest Hills on the bus. And when right before I got on the bus, I had bought a little package of crackers. And when I got on the bus, I sat down and I wanted to read the ingredients of what was in the crackers. So I didn't notice that there was somebody in the seat one in front of me, and she must have had her knees like up on the seat, and she must have been standing up and looking backwards right at me, right? And I didn't realize that, but all of a sudden I heard her voice, and she said, "Don't read the barcodes," right? Because I was trying, I had the package of crackers, and I was trying to read the ingredients, and she said, "Don't read the barcodes. Angels cry when you read the barcodes."
That was the first thing.
Very first thing that she said to me. And she was quite obviously, looking for me and looking at me and wanted to communicate with me. And I didn't realize it, and then I looked up and there she was. She must have had her knees on the seat and she was up above and looking right at me.
What did she look like, Tom? Just briefly.
Okay, I would say she looked like she was about 15 or 16 years old.
Okay.
She had black hair. It was thin and it was frizzy. It wasn't like an Afro-American person, but it was frizzy and thin. And she was wearing just a regular gray hoodie, right? And she had a sort of a flat shirt, and there was a great, it seems to me that it came down like this because you could see on her chest there was what I would say looked like a tattoo, and it was a crucifix, right? And it didn't look like it was the kind that, that they made by sticking needles in you and injecting the ink into your skin. It looked like the kind that, maybe you apply a decal or something like that. But it could also have looked like maybe she drew it herself. Right, so the crucifix was black, and it did not just have straight lines coming down. It was like the old-fashioned one you see from the Middle Ages. It flared out up towards the ends of the vertical and the horizontal. And then, in addition to that, it had wavy little things that it looked like she drew herself hanging from the horizontal. And they were like stems, and at the ends of them, there were little flowers. And it looked like she had colored them in with like felt-tip markers or something. And I would say they looked like lilies of the valley. Right? So anyway, so then she had a dark complexion, and I can't exactly, it didn't really look exactly like any that I've ever really seen on the earth. I haven't seen that many people, from Mexico, and I haven't seen any people from the Amazon. It was dark, but it was not like Afro-American, it was not like Indian, it was not like anything I had ever seen.
What was she, personality-wise, was she saying that to you in a gentle way, or what was her?
That's a very good question.
Demeanor?
It was gentle. It was very matter-of-fact. It was not like as if she had read these things somewhere. It was like she knew. She knew like from direct experience. And even though she looked like she was about 15 or 16 years old, it was, not only was it matter-of-fact, but it had authority. It sounded like, you better pay attention. Okay. So anyway, then for about 20 seconds, she didn't say anything. She just stood there. Was up on her knees, looking at me. Then she said, "Do you sometimes go to temple?" Right? And I thought it was kind of remarkable. First of all, it was remarkable that a 15-year-old kid would all of a sudden talk to a guy who's in his 60s, we've never met before in her life, on a bus like that. Now, but when she said, "Do you sometimes go to temple?" it seemed to me that she could tell that I looked Jewish, And I said, this is the main part now. I said, "Well, sometimes, but I read the Bible from the Bible every day, and I attend meetings 4 times a week where we talk about spiritual subjects." Now comes the important part, right? I didn't mention to you before, her eyes, the natural condition of her eyes all the time was to be open wider than regular human beings on the earth eyes are open. But when she heard me say this, that I read from the Bible every day and that I attend meetings where we talk about spiritual subjects, all of a sudden, the pupils in her eyes changed from getting big and small and big and small and big, but it did it about 7 times in about 2/3 of a second.
Whoa.
I don't think that there's any human being that can do this, or any living species of anything on the earth that can do this.
Never seen
it. Looked like special effects out of some kind of a movie.
Wow.
Or a cartoon or something like that. The people did like that.
So what was your reaction to that?
I was absolutely astounded.
Okay.
I couldn't take my eyes off her, and I didn't, and I was trying to just sort of be regular and normal and stuff, but I was thinking, oh my God, what is this?
What's going on?
Creature here?
What is
right?
going on?
So, besides the eyes getting wide and big and small and big and small, she also broke into a smile. And it looked to me like it wasn't voluntary. It was like, bam! Like she couldn't control it. It just happened all of a sudden.
She burst into a smile.
Yeah. So then I started talking to her about some of the stuff that I've been reading about that has to do with spiritual subjects, like, for example, Swedenborg, right? And after I mentioned a little bit about Swedenborg, she said, "So this Swedenborg was a prophet, right?" And I said, "Yes." And one thing that I mentioned to her that he talked about is, I said, he says that he has communicated with the souls of inhabitants of other planets who have died. And then she said, it doesn't matter whether those other planets have inhabitants or not. All that matters is that they exist. And then she said, and there's planet heaven. I don't mean she said it like that. She said, and there's planet heaven. Just matter of fact, and she said, and the core is hollow. right?
This is quite a conversation.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this goes deep like within a second.
That's right. And then, let me see, then I said to her, I don't remember, I might have said a few things in between, but I said, well, Swedenborg says that we have a spirit body, and our physical body is sort of like outside of it, surrounding it, clothing it, and the spiritual body looks just like our spiritual body, our physical body. And she said, no, it doesn't. It looks younger, right? And she said, and we have souls. And she said, and she was pointing on her own body as she said this. She said, our skin is a soul, our hair is a soul. And she didn't say has a soul, she said is a soul. And then she said, and the light that emanates from Jewish people's eyes is a soul, right? And then right after that, she had to leave, and she got off the bus.
She got off the bus.
She just got off the bus and left.
No phone number, no.
No.
Okay.
And she didn't say, how would you like to come to our temple or our synagogue or our church? She didn't say anything like that.
Did she wave or bid you goodbye?
Yeah, when the bus started going away, she waved at me, and I waved back like this. And she did.
And how did you feel after she got off the bus?
I felt completely
what happened?
Bewildered and astounded and sort of numb and excited and numb at the same time.
You bet. Wow.
The eyes and everything, the changing so fast, big, small, 7 times in 2/3 of a second, And the fact that she had, I would have called it the courage to, the very first thing out of her mouth, she's up on the seat with her knees looking right at me, who she's never seen in her life before. Well, Rena will elaborate on that. And the first thing out of her mouth is, don't read the barcodes. Angels cry when you read the barcodes.
So she had really focused right on you, no question about it. And this amazing dialogue that went on.
Yeah, so it's, there were, I'm going to try to remember as many of the things as I can that Rena told me that makes us both believe that this was one of her friends from outer space. The first thing is that she must have known. She must have actually been doing what Rena said, appearing to somebody from DNNY. And she must have had some kind of a way, and Rena said she probably was able to tell in advance that that's where I was, and was able to do everything she had to do to be on that bus right when I got on, And Rena said that, they heard Rena's description of how her friends look is they look, quote, wild-eyed, unquote, right? And that's how she looked. Her eyes were always wider than regular human eyes. Mm-hmm. And then we had this thing with the pupils, and she said, they had frizzy hair, And then Rena also said that, if I remember correctly, when you see one that looks like she's 15 or 16 years old for a human being, she's probably really a few hundred years old, right? That was another thing, I think.
I asked them if it was one of them, and they said yes. And I said, well, how old was she? Was she 15 or 16? And they said, no, she was 112 years old.
Okay, that's right. And then, if I remember correctly, I think Rena also said that this isn't her real name, but she wants me to think of her as having the name Annabelle, because that means a combination of Anna means grace and Belle means beauty. And she wanted me to know that she is a combination of grace and beauty.
wanted you to know that she's both, that she's completely female.
Completely
she's
female,
not, She's not one of the ones with the female and male.
Yeah. And so, I told other people that I know about this, and many people sort of reacted like this is just craziness. This was probably somebody high on drugs, or a psychotic, and stuff like that, But the way she spoke, with this combination of kindness and candor and matter of fact, but with authority, like everything she was saying, she simply knew from direct experience that what she was telling me was the truth.
She was fitting into that description. Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I guess I'll let Rena go on.
Thank you so much for that, really, for sharing that with the group. That's an incredible story. Rena, please comment.
They said that they wanted to fulfill my request.
Okay.
And that's why they sent her. And they teleported her down to where they probably followed you and saw what bus. They probably teleported her into a crowd, and then she got on the bus. And probably not too far after she left, they probably teleported her back up. There's no way to tell, but that's what my guess would be. Yeah.
Wow, that way you go.
I think it feels 100% real to me.
Yeah, that's incredible. What a story. A friend of mine was in Central Park, and he's had contact many times before, and he said all of a sudden he felt a presence, and there was this man, average, middle-aged, walking. He said, but there was something about him that he was walking a little bit different, not really noticeable, but there was something. Couldn't quite put his hand. And he said, he just kind of caught my attention, and when he passed where I was sitting on a bench on the Upper West Side, he glanced at me and then kept walking. And my friend said, I looked back just as he got a little bit more on the path, and he literally disappeared. He gone. And he saw the disappearance.
Wow.
So he said, something told me there was something special about that person. There was. So this goes on. It's an incredible, once you start realizing that there's a lot of things going on that you can't easily explain that happened. So now where are we going with it? Now I just had a couple of questions too. We might want to, the class system of the planet was, did they have elections, or was somebody?
No, they have what's called a princess of the whole planet, and the princess is born into her. She reincarnates, kind of like the Dalai Lama.
Okay.
She reincarnates, and they have to find her when she dies. They have to find her again. Well, of course, she lives several hundred years before she dies, but every time she dies, they have to find her again.
Oh.
And she's always black. There's two main skin colors on their planet, brown and black. The black people are considered more royalty. The brown-skinned people are more just the regular people.
So there is a class system.
There is a
of
class
some sort there.
system, yeah.
Interesting. And also, religion-wise, can
They
you give us some
worship
idea?
Indri,
Tell
the
us
goddess, the goddess Indri, who I looked up in the 90s. You could find her on Google in the Indian pantheon. Excuse me. But they've since taken her off the pantheon for some reason. I can't find her anywhere.
I know someone who's very deep into that culture. I'll ask. See if I have an answer.
There's a god named Indra, but there's a goddess too named Indri, Indri, and she's the goddess of fallen women or forgotten women, and these are forgotten women.
So that makes sense. Do they pray in any way?
Yeah,
like
they
we
pray. They meditate.
Are there anything like temples to go to?
Well, her room on the ship, I don't know. I've never been to their planet, so I don't know what kind of temples or cities or anything like that, because
Okay.
I've never been to their planet.
Okay.
But there was a beautiful room. It was the largest room on the ship, and there was this intricate inlay in the floor of patterns, patterns of like geometric patterns. And
Graphic
there was
designs.
a really amazing seat for her to sit in. And the mother person was jealous of me because she appeared to me and she wouldn't appear to her. She has a habit of appearing to certain people at certain times, and she doesn't always appear,
I would gather that those people that are getting this vision, this visitation, would be open to that?
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
It just happens. I wasn't open to it, but it happened. When I went in, I went in the room. I wasn't supposed to go in there, and I went in the room, and she was there. And mother got mad at me. Well, why are you in the room? And I said there was a person in there. She asked.
Well, they
me
told you
why.
not. They didn't tell you not to go into that room.
No, they told me not to go
Well,
into
they
that
told,
room.
but yet you did.
But I did.
Well, Rena, you little devil, you're peeking around the corner.
Yeah.
Wow. I also want to ask you this. There's so many questions. I'm sure the room has a lot of questions too. But before we do that, I'm interested in clothing too.
They wear red robes, full-length robes.
Really?
Yeah.
And red, you said?
Yeah, and they make their own, on the planet, they make their own clothing.
Out of fiber?
Special fabric.
Okay.
And in the robe, there's a place, each one of them from an early age makes a knife. And it's their own individual knife, and it's made out of some blue kind of metal, and it's so sharp that if you touch it, it will cut you. If you just barely touch it, it will cut you.
So I'm thinking if they're carrying a weapon, which a knife would be, that there might be an occasion to use it?
Yes.
In some way? Are there people in that society that would be, shall we say, to avoid?
No. It's for when they go to other planets.
Just in case.
And just in case.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Now, at this point, after you shared so much, and of course Tom also did, do you want to open it at this point?
Sure,
for some
that'd be
questions?
fine.
So, guys, if you will, just raise your hand, and one at a time. And also, if you have a gentle voice, just step closer to that microphone there. I think that would be advisable. So why don't we start? You had your hand up first, and then we'll go to you. So just stand up, if you will, and just a little closer to the mic. Close to the mic. Okay, and just your first name and then your question.
Naomi. Rena, so you said that the people from Alpha Centauri were moving to another planet?
No.
What alien race is moving to another?
My friends from outer space, from Eta Cassiopeia, in the Cassiopeian constellation.
Would you know what kind of alternative energy they're going to have in the other planet, and what
The
is
same
name
kind
of
that they have now. It's a free energy, basically.
Something like what Tesla was experimenting with?
free energy?
Yeah, it's very powerful motors of some kind that provide free electricity as much as they want, whenever they want.
Have they ever contacted any of our leaders?
That will be your final. Go ahead.
No.
Okay. Thank you, Naomi, very much. You had your hand up. Please come up, stand up, and come over towards the mic. Come on up. Just come on up. And just in a nice loud voice. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Jonah. Two questions. One, when you would go, you were in the sink and everything like that, and you were a child and you would go with these beings, places and everything, how did your parents not know you were gone?
Well, like I said, they would always bring me back to the same moment in time. So no matter how far we went or how long we went, they brought me back. They were able to manipulate time, and they would bring me back to the same moment. So in my parents' point of view, no time had passed.
I forgot my second question. Do you mind if I go back and think about it?
No, thank you for that. That was a great question. You don't have to get up, but just loud, very loud. Just go ahead, loud. Your first name and then the question.
Hi, my name is Jan, and I'd like to know, you said, I want to know how they live longer. Is there anything you can eat or take us to live longer?
Did Do you want to repeat that? Do you hear that clearly?
What they eat
Yeah,
in order
we
to
want
live
us
longer?
to live longer. Do they give you any secrets of how we can live
Oh,
longer?
okay, there you go. Thank you
Yes.
for your question. Go ahead.
Thinking. Your thoughts affect your age. They think beautifully. They meditate, they pray,
That affects their physicality? you
yeah,
say?
it affects their physicality. That happens on Earth too. People who think beautifully sometimes live 100 years old, you know. I think that's their secret.
Thank you very
is
much.
how they
Okay, we
think.
have a question. Come on, no, you gotta come up. No, come on up. Just come on up. That's not gonna happen. Be right
Michael,
up.
on that same subject, do you talk about consciousness? Do they bring about consciousness? You're talking about thinking beautifully and how consciousness.
What's your first name?
Michael.
Michael.
Yes, they have, like I say, they use meditation, they use art, you know, singing and music to reach altered states of consciousness. They do all that.
Apparently it works.
It
From
works
what you're
really
saying,
well.
That it does. You had your hand up. Come on up. Your first, come up all the way up. Your first name and then your question. Okay. Go
Hi,
ahead.
my name's Hal. You said they were trying to access the knowledge the male knowledge that you had from Area
Yeah.
51. Did they ever give a reason of when they brought you on chip and rearranged your DNA, they didn't let you come up as a male to be able to access this information?
Yes, because they don't like men.
Oh,
They don't, because of
Tell
what
us
happened.
that. That's interesting.
Because what happened on their planet, the men decided to follow this devil that was living on their planet, and he was a demon,
like a Satan character.
like a Satan-type character. And this Satan-like character told them, "We want you men to totally dominate the women."
Oh boy, here we go.
And it was like a Taliban type situation.
Oh wow,
And the women weren't going to have it.
good for them.
And they warred with each other for several years
Wow,
until there was a split.
wow.
And the women went off in one direction and the men went off in another direction. And then the demon said, "You have to go to war with them." So there was a war. And
Now the women won, obviously.
The
How
women-
did they win? Or did the male
I
just
helped them.
flee? Did they flee? Did they leave the planet?
no, they
They
were destroyed in a cataclysm,
Wow,
in a really bad earthquake.
that's an incredible story.
That's what they told me anyway.
Well, yeah, hey. All right, did anyone else have their hand up? Then we'll go back. We have about maybe 10 more minutes. So, Rena, I know there's huge amounts here, so we'll just go for just a couple more
Okay.
pieces. We talked about religion a little bit. We talked about the communication. Oh, somebody mentioned, or at some point, did they ever communicate, that particular community, ever communicate with anyone at the White House or any of our government officials? Was there anything like that that you know of?
They want to be kind of like the Vulcans on Star Trek. They want to be the first alien race to make contact.
Really?
Yeah, they do. They want to be like them.
Wow. So that's an agenda.
That's an agenda,
And
but
what's the timetable for that? Is there any way to know that?
they said that we need to advance a little more
Uh-huh.
before they're
You know,
they're
that's not
willing
a
to do that.
surprise.
Yeah.
You know, there's been some other amazing stories about other people from other beings from other planets who have asked us to absolutely stay away from nuclear energy and to shut
Yeah.
off everything. And in one case, there was supposedly a meeting with Eisenhower,
Yeah.
and that was on the table. And the answer was, we can't. And there's another instance too, where someone, I believe from Venus, said something similar. You have to immediately stop anything nuclear because you're going to kill not only yourselves but the planet, and that affects us in other realms. And the answer was ultimately, no, we can't. So there is a focus on almost like a protective thing that seems to be running through some of these encounters. That seems to be, do you realize you're playing with such fire? Don't go there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So that's just happens to be in some of the stories about people who have already, beings who have already communicated with us on a serious level. I believe 2 or 3 times we ultimately said, sorry, but we can't accept that.
Yeah, they've never said anything to me about nuclear, but their basic thing is that we need to grow up and treat the planet responsibly and quit using fossil fuels. That's one of their biggest gripes with us, is that we're killing our planet.
And that's true. That's true on so many levels.
They've seen firsthand what.
Right. They're saying, look out. We've been there. We know what's going on. We're warning you.
We're warning you.
And that is really a very positive and loving, protective directive here.
Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one more question, and you had a part. Come close.
Oh, hi, this is Jonah again.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know if this is originally my second question or not, but I want to know, like, from all your knowledge, if you could maybe explain. I don't know if you'd be able to or not, but what you think, the best you can, what the angel meant by, what the person meant by when the angels cry when they read the barcode. What exactly does that mean? Is there the code means something toxic, dangerous, evil?
I've thought about that. I haven't really come up with an answer yet.
Okay.
But my feeling is that years ago they said barcodes and things like that was a sign of Satan. I wonder if it has something to do with that. You know, the Antichrist and all that kind of stuff. I don't know. That's the only thing I could come up with.
Well,
he has one more question.
Wait, very quickly, your name again?
Michael, I'm asking about Area 51.
Close the door.
It's a question you probably have been asked before, but it occurred to me when you were talking that Area 51 is a very male-dominated culture.
Yes,
Maybe I thought about it for the first time. I said, oh my gosh, there must be 95% men there from 1940, whatever. Do you feel, in your experience of understanding Area 51, that that's true?
That's a good last question. Thank you. Go ahead, Rena.
Yes, definitely. When I was there as a boy. And there were a few women in the lab, but very few. And they had a very, very subordinate role. It was mostly a lot of generals there, a lot of, you don't hear about them, but they're there a lot from all the services, not just the Air Force, and techs, and bunch of men. Very dominated.
Rena, needless to say, you are invited back, and it just your truth and sharing your amazing life on so many levels. We are indebted to you. Guys, can you give her... Bravo.